Dr. America show here on the We Act Radio Network. I am your host, Dr. Sanjeev Sriram. Thanks so much for coming back and joining us again. So this week, something special to announce is that the NRA is having its annual convention in Nashville this weekend, April 10th through 12th. And I'm looking forward to it. For two things. One, Wayne LaPierre, the vice president dude of the organization, is going to give some ludicrous speech, which will be entertaining for its like word salad kind of aspects of it, but also just because it's some crazy talk, and who doesn't enjoy some of that? But the second reason why I'm actually kind of looking forward to the NRA convention is that I'm wondering if maybe, just maybe, this will be the year that Wayne LaPierre and his buddies will meet with survivors of gun violence who are going to be demonstrating outside of the convention hall. Kudos to Moms Demand, Moms Demand Action and Gun Sense in America, and kudos to Everytown USA for organizing and bringing together victims of gun violence to Nashville to try to be heard by the NRA leadership. And I'm actually hoping that guys like Wayne LaPierre will show some basic decency to the victims of gun violence and at least hear them out. Have a dialogue, show some humanity, do the talking, have the conversation. And I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that this will be the year to have it. But, it didn't happen last year, and, maybe there isn't too much reason to be optimistic this year. But you know what? I am really excited for the work by Everytown USA. I think you guys are going to, at the very least, give some people some hope that they are not alone in the world, that, that you care, that I care, that, many of us care, that that they have not been neglected, forgotten in the lack of good gun policy making in this country. So thank you to the people at Everytown USA for bringing some justice to the NRA convention this week. But this weekend, Wayne LaPierre is going to be giving some speech full of crazy talk, and I'm actually kind of excited for that because at the very least, it's some entertaining nonsense. And I don't know if you guys got to hear last year's speech, but it's classic. And I've got like a little excerpt that I want to read for you guys. And I'm probably not going to do it justice in this reading, but I want you guys to hear what Wayne LaPierre said at the NRA convention. These are his people. So he's in his safe place, and lots of guns around, so I'm sure he's feeling very safe. And I just got to give you guys this little excerpt from the speech. Okay, here we go. You feel it in your heart. You know it in your gut. Something has gone wrong. The core values we believe in, the things we care about most are changing, eroding. Our right to speak. Okay, dude, you're speaking right now. You've always had the right to speak. Your freedom of speech to say whatever crazy stuff you want, never been a problem. Never been an issue. You have always had the right to speak. What you don't have is that you do not have freedom from responsibility. If guys like me, if guys on late night TV, if anybody else on the internet or wherever wants to make fun of what you are saying, if they want to pick apart what you are saying, if they want to criticize what you are saying, you do not have freedom from them. You have plenty of freedom of speech. So go on. Say what you want to say. You have the freedom to do so. But the rest of us also have the freedom to respond. But anyway, back to his speech. He's like, so, our core values, things we care about most are changing, eroding. Our right to speak, our right to gather. Dude, you are at the NRA convention. Your right to gather is totally fine. I mean, your right to gather is intact. You are at a gathering. Okay. Our right to and then he's going on like, our right to privacy. Okay, first off, if you're referring to the Patriot Act on that one, that is not liberals and progressives' fault. You all passed that with your, your buddies in Congress passed that after 9/11 in some big kind of like freak out panic mode, and we've been dealing with the consequences ever since. It is far from a liberal or progressive idea to have the NSA tapping into everything. If that's what you mean by right to privacy, then yeah, but not really anybody else's fault but your buddies in Congress. Then he goes on. The freedom to work and practice our religion and raise and protect our families the way we see fit. Okay, all those things, you're totally welcome to do them. You have the freedom to work, you can practice your religion, and you can raise and protect your family as you see fit. You can do all those things. Nothing is attacking any of that. So I don't know where that self-pity was coming from. But anyway, he goes on. Those aren't old values. They aren't new values. They are core freedoms, the core values that have always defined us as a nation. Not quite sure if that's everybody's core freedoms, but okay, they're yours. They're yours. And we feel them. We feel them slipping away. All across America, everywhere I go, people come up to me and say, Wayne, I've never been worried about this country until now. Not with anger, but with sadness in their eyes. I've never been worried about this country until now. I can't help but wonder whether some of these people are saying that they haven't been worried about this country until now, until a black man won 2 presidential elections in a row. But you know what? That's another conversation for another time. And then he says, we're worried about the economic crisis choking our budgets and shrinking our retirement. We're worried about providing decent health care and a college education for our own children. Okay. I'm going to stop the excerpt right there because, there's only so much crazy that you can indulge in before you start to lose your own mind. But, okay, so you're saying that we're worried about the economic crisis choking our budgets and shrinking our retirement. We're worried about providing decent health care and a college education for our own children. Here's my question. How's a gun going to fix any of that? Really? I think that you can own a gun and then all of those other problems are going to still be there, The economic insecurity, the retirement problem, the healthcare problem, the how do you send your kids to college question. All that stuff is going to be over there, and you've got a gun over here. The two don't necessarily match, it's not like the gun is an answer to any of those things that you are talking about. And my thing is that actually in this part of the speech, I actually do feel some empathy for people who feel that they are getting squeezed. Last week, we had Mike Darner on the program. He's the executive director of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. And we actually talked about this, that people are feeling a tight squeeze on their economics. The art and science of getting by in America has become tougher and tougher and tougher. And I actually have immense empathy and sympathy for that. It's just that I don't see how a gun fits into addressing any of those problems. And that's the thing I think that bothers me the most, Wayne, because, when you look at all of these issues that you brought up, the economic crisis, choking budgets, shrinking the people's retirements, how do you provide decent health care? How do you make college more affordable for kids? The thing that I want to know is that have you ever asked your friends in Congress these questions? These these folks who you seem to feel fine giving money to their campaigns and, they seem fine, not doing anything to protect the rest of us from gun violence. Have you ever had any of these conversations with these members of Congress? Because quite frankly, I think it's interesting that you're, having this self-pity party, and this was in 2014, but still, that you're having the self-pity party about economic insecurity and healthcare and affording college. Meanwhile, your buddies in Congress, before they left for their Easter break, passed a budget that left Wall Street totally unaccountable for pitching in to do anything to help us out with the budget. They did a ton of military spending. And then when it came to doing this whole thing about decent health care, they decided to repeal Obamacare, which has actually provided health insurance to 11 million people and counting. And then they also decided to rip apart or at least really slash at Pell Grants, which is how a huge number of, working class and lower middle class kids afford college. So my question, Wayne, is why didn't you have these conversations with these guys about these issues after you made the speech in 2014. I mean, there was, like an election cycle, I mean, like we had people, get reelected. We had new people come in. I mean, like now both chambers of Congress are in Republican hands. These are like the people that the NRA has given money to. Did you talk about this stuff with them? Because it doesn't look like either you talked about it and they didn't hear you and they passed, this budget, or you talked about the gun part, but you didn't talk about these worries about how do you afford retirement, how do you afford health care, how do you afford college. I'm wondering whether you really had these conversations. And part of me is kind of wondering, Wayne, when you talk about these kinds of things and you raise up all of this worry and you gin up all of this fear, is that the marketing ploy, man? Is that how you get them to buy the gun? Because without all of that, would they be worried enough to buy the weapon? I mean, because honestly, I don't get how the gun fixes any of this stuff. I just don't get that part whatsoever. And especially because, if you're really worried about like accountable government, these are your friends. These are the people that the NRA has given money to. They vote on a budget that rips apart all the things that you say that these people coming up to you across the country are worried about. And there's no like accountability from your own side. These are like your allies. This is not the opposition. This is not, I know I'm your opposition. I know how I feel about you and I know how I feel about your politics. But within your own tent, the people that you have this comfort zone with, how are you making sense of all of this? In fact, you're having this conference in Nashville. I find it interesting that the Tennessee Senate at the last second decided that they are not going to expand Medicaid. And now are you gonna bring up this whole issue about, how do we provide decent health care? Because quite frankly, I find it would be a great question to ask, the people in the Tennessee Senate, like, hey, do you got an alternative plan? Because the NRA's answer to it seems to be a gun, which I don't quite get how the gun solves any of this kind of stuff. But you know what? I'm not in your comfort zone. I'm not the audience that you were trying to talk to. I think the questions are worth asking. I think the questions are worth asking to the people who are paying money to attend this convention. That, okay, how do you make sense of all of this? Because quite frankly, gun ownership, I have no problem, as I've said before, I have no problem with legal gun ownership in this country. I just don't get how legal gun ownership in this country fixes any of the things that you said that you were worried about and trying to get some tears jerked around there. Anyway. So, the thing is that I bring up all of this stuff with the NRA and, their inconsistencies when it comes to the budget because, I kind of feel like they're preying upon an anxiety and they're also preying upon a cynicism in the country that like, oh, nothing is getting done in Washington. And, I would say that there is a ton of gridlock here in D.C., and it is very, very frustrating. I'm not going to, defend any of that. But I believe that not all is not lost. And in fact, if you want the best example of that, right before Congress left for the Easter recess, okay, they had what was called a vote-a-rama in the Senate. Now, a vote-a-rama, I mean, like, this is going to get into a little bit of civics here. Just roll with me on this. I promise you that you're going to like the ending of this story. What a vote-a-rama is that, like, when the Senate and most of Congress is looking at a recess that's about to start, they're going to look at, like, the last bit of work that they have to get done by that recess deadline. Like, they have to get done before recess starts. And they're going to try to rush through it. So they have, in the Senate, they call it this vote-a-rama. And it's an opportunity for people to introduce amendments for, maybe not a specific policy, but maybe the idea for a policy. And it can be attached to other pieces of legislation like a budget reconciliation bill or other types of legislation that are moving through the civics wheel of Congress. So they have this vote-a-rama. It allows them to kind of rapid fire vote yes or no on a bunch of things. And during this most recent one, on March 26th, when they had a vote-a-rama, Senator Patty Murray from Washington State offered up what she called a paid sick day proposal. Okay, here's her idea for paid sick days. She wants to guarantee that all Americans can take up to 7 days from work a year with pay in order to get better from an illness, like if they themselves are ill, or to take care of a sick family member. Now, we've talked about the importance of paid sick days on this show. I mean, as I've told you guys before, millions of people in the service industry, millions of other people with low income jobs, they report to work sick, and it's a public health problem because they end up getting millions of other people sick. Similarly, these are folks who cannot afford to take time off from work, so they send their sick children to school, daycare, that kind of thing. And now you have other children getting sick. So you can see that like paid sick days is actually a really important piece of public health policy. And the United States is actually way behind a lot of the rest of the industrialized world, a lot of the wealthy world, and giving every American this basic human right of being able to take time off from work without losing pay so they can recover from illness or take care of somebody who's been sick. So this was Patty Murray's idea. She's bringing it up, and mind you, she's bringing it up in that civic sense again. She's just trying to get to 51 votes, and she knows that she can get the majority of Democrats, so she's not really worried about her Democrat colleagues. What she's hoping for is that she can get a handful of Republicans to kind of, who have express a little bit of sympathy for this idea, to join the team of people who are interested in the idea. And then with that 51 votes, with that majority, that's enough to take the idea from idea phase to the beginning of policy building. It's, a very, very gradual process, but you can see that this is, an important first step, right? So guess what happened? She got 61 votes for this idea of paid sick days. This is a huge victory. I mean, it's a big deal because even though it's not a policy yet, I will qualify that. It's not a policy yet, but it's still a big deal. It's still something to get excited about and to realize that we are being heard. And what it is that there are about, 14 Republicans who are in states that are pretty vulnerable. Like their reelection chances are kind of vulnerable because they're in these states that are like kind of blue, kind of purple, they kind of are starting to lean a little bit more Democrat, and the Republicans from these states are trying to find issues where they can show that they are on the right side of social justice and economic justice. And the smart thing that Patty Murray did about a lot of this was that she basically decided that it was not going to be done. She wanted to hear people be on the record for this idea. So the important part of it is that, she refused. Okay, so according to Jonathan Cohn, she refused requests to consider the amendment on a voice vote only, and she pushed for a roll call. And the reason why the roll call matters is that the votes are going to be recorded. And the thing is that now now those senators are on notice for where did they stand when the idea of paid sick days, when it came up, where did they stand on it? Now, the cynical side of a lot of people, and a little bit of me included, would probably look at this and say like, well, yeah, it's easy for these Republicans to say that they, or any conservative to say that they're in favor of the idea of paid sick days, but when it when the rubber meets the road and they really have to support a policy, are they going to still be there? And that's a legitimate, fair question, but the reason why we need to take a lot of optimism here is that, where Patty Murray was hoping for 51 votes, she got 61. And I have to give, a lot of kudos to organizations like Moms Rising, National Partnership for Women and Families. Moms Rising did such a fantastic job of keeping up the pressure on senators to thank them for taking this vote for Patty Murray's idea. And I honestly believe that it is that type of grassroots activism that can really make our Congress reconnect with some of the basic struggles that we're seeing working families deal with, day in and day out. And like I was saying before, this is a huge piece of public health policy that will work wonders for reducing our risk during public health crises. Should we ever get hit with the flu epidemic or something really scary, it'd be great to have paid sick days where we're not forcing working families to decide between their health and their wealth. And for once, they'll actually be able to do the medically advised thing of staying home, taking care of themselves or taking care of that loved one. So, to the people who are feeling that, Congress and Washington, D.C. are just lost in gridlock and nothing's ever going to get done, I do want to report this small success story because it really does speak to smart leaders in our Congress, standing up for everyday people and honestly, like grassroots activism, like keeping up the pressure. And so it's a small win, but it's an important step. And I want to thank the women at Moms Rising for making a lot of it happen, because I think without their type of leadership and support, I don't even know whether we would have gotten this far. And I want to thank them very much for that. All right. There's more to report in the news, and we will come back to that in a bit. You guys have been listening to Dr. America on the We Act Radio Network. I am your host, Dr. Sanjeev Sriram. When we come back, we'll be talking more about some presidential candidates and another opportunity for activism next week. We'll be right back after this message.
My name is Joe Thompson. I'm 29 years old and I have a career that I love as a systems analyst. Career. It still sounds cool to say that word. I never could have gotten on this path without a college degree. And if the college me were here, he'd tell you.
I never would have gotten to college without Big Brothers Big Sisters. I could have ended up anywhere, on the streets even. But college? Joe Thompson? Not likely. My big brother helped me out. He taught me I could do anything, at a time when a lot of people were saying just the opposite.
And to a 7-year-old, that means a lot. My big brother's name is Phil, and Phil is the reason that this 7-year-old grows up to be a systems analyst.
Whether you donate money or time, you're helping Big Brothers Big Sisters help a child, and that can last a lifetime. Start something today at bigbrothersbigsisters.org. Brought to you by Big Brothers Big Sisters and the Ad Council.
You're listening to We Act Radio, WPWC 1480 AM. Visit us online at weactradio.com.
Welcome back to the Dr. America show here on the We Act Radio Network. I am your host, Dr. Sanjeev Sriram. And so in the next bit of news to cover this week, Dr. Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, is running for president. He is a doctor. He is an ophthalmologist. And so, speaking as physician to physician, Senator Paul, I got to express my concerns about, your decision to run for president, and what exactly do you, plan for the entire country instead of just your supporters? Because let's start with just last month. So last month, during an interview with a right-wing Christian network, CBN, Dr. Paul, you said that there is a moral crisis that allows people, and I'm quoting here, There is a moral crisis that allows people to think there would be some other sort of marriage. When you were asked about gay marriage, you said that there was a moral crisis that allows people to think there would be some other sort of marriage. Then you went on to say that the First Amendment says keep government out of religion. It doesn't say keep religion out of government. Interesting. Okay, so here's the problem that I've got, obviously, with this, is that, when it comes to, moral, like using the words moral crisis, if the first thing that comes to your mind, Senator Paul, Dr. Paul, is gay marriage, I gotta tell you, I really wonder whether you're in touch with, the word crisis or moral. Because let's face it, you voted for a budget, and I'm going to keep coming back to this budget thing because honestly, I mean, this is where, your policy points, this is where like your rhetoric has to become reality is in your votes, in your voting record, okay? You voted for a budget that once again dismantles the Affordable Care Act. How on earth is that not a moral crisis to you? The idea that you could just send millions of people out there without any health insurance whatsoever, I mean, like, that doesn't strike you as some kind of a moral crisis? The idea of, like, gay marriage is, like, that's your idea of, like, how we, like, that should be causing panic among, people in this society who want to consider themselves moral and decent, is that two consenting adults who want to, solidify their relationship in a marriage that is recognized by the government so that they can reap the benefits of, like as we've talked about on this show, that if you want to be involved with helping your sick loved one plan the end of their health care, if you want to be involved with, visiting them at the hospital, if you want to be involved with, taking time off to, take care of them when they do get sicker. I mean, that's what, like, gay marriage, like, that's what a lot of these activists are fighting for, are those kinds of rights. No, as we have said before, there is no threat to religion here. There is nothing that is mandating that a church or a synagogue or a temple or a mosque must, officiate a gay marriage. Like, there's nothing in any of these policies that is demanding that. In fact, it is still legal for a Catholic church to deny a heterosexual couple to be married in their institution if either the bride or the groom is a divorcee. It's not, I'm not saying it's common in Catholic Church, but like that is still okay by law for a Catholic Church to deny a divorcee a second marriage. Like, they're able to do that. That to me means that they are exercising their religious freedom. Are they exercising religious tolerance? Are they exercising decency? Those are like questions that are fair to ask for the court of public opinion, but in the court of law, they're still allowed that. How on earth is it a moral crisis for two consenting people who want to be there for each other for the rest of their life to ask for the same kind of marriage rights? And in the meantime, you as a doctor are willing to kick millions of people off of health insurance, and you don't have an alternative. That's the thing that bothers me the most, is that if somebody like Ted Cruz doesn't have an alternative for, what to replace Obamacare with, I mean, to some extent, I'm going to have to give him a pass because, he's delusional. But, you, Senator Paul, you're a doctor. When you were asked about this last year, you said that, well, we can give freedom a try. You literally said this. You said that we could give freedom a try and that we had that for a long time before that there was the Affordable Care Act. Let me tell you something. Freedom is not a healthcare plan. That is not any kind of a plan. It is not something that, like, if a patient shows up in my doctor's office and, and they say that, hey, I've got freedom, can you, help me out? I don't know what to do with that person. I mean, part of me would want to start taking a mental health history to kind of just double check, hey, does this person understand what that word means? Does it mean what they think it means? And do we share that? Because I got to tell you, freedom just by itself as a word is not a health care plan. That is not a healthcare system. That is not the kind of thing that millions of people that you have just kicked off of health insurance can now turn to when they need health care. So I gotta ask, what is your plan when you decide to vote against things like the Affordable Care Act and send millions of people off of health insurance? In fact, you know what? I think that would be probably the easiest way for you to answer this question. Go home to Kentucky. Go home to Kentucky and talk to people, because your governor of that state embraced the Affordable Care Act. He expanded Medicaid, and now they have a huge drop in their uninsurance rate. They cut it in half. Literally, before it was over 20%, now it is under 10% uninsured. That happened because of the Affordable Care Act. There are hundreds of thousands of people in your home state who can now go to the doctor without having to worry about whether they're going to be financially ruined because of it. I mean, like, that is a huge success. If anything, I think that, what I really want to hear from you, Dr. Paul, is what is your plan to, build upon the Affordable Care Act in places like your home state of Kentucky? In places like, because in your home state, you've got some challenges between like rural healthcare and urban healthcare. You've got like a lot of challenges about how do you make sure that you have a healthcare workforce that is well distributed so that all of these Kentuckians can get their health care. And, that might sound like, a very, very technical health policy question. Would I ask the same question to somebody like, Hillary Clinton? Would I ask that to, Elizabeth Warren? Would I ask that to Ted Cruz? Eventually. But you're a physician, Senator Paul. I have to ask that to you sooner because I expect that you understand these issues better. And if you don't, then I really got to kind of wonder, what are you doing running for president? I mean, it's just one of those things where I look at, the choice of your words. It's a moral crisis for, two, homosexual adults to, form a more perfect union for themselves. And then to do this, this is all, the next line about the First Amendment says the First Amendment says keep government out of religion. It doesn't say keep religion out of government. Really, actually, I wouldn't mind seeing some, some Christian values show up in a GOP budget. I wouldn't mind, you guys cutting some of that war spending and, increasing some of that food stamp spending so that, the poor among us can actually get health care, can get food to eat, can get some affordable housing. To me, I think that those are consistent with Christian values, but yet that isn't the budget that you voted for. So when you say that you want to, that you're not against keeping religion out of government, and yet, getting gay married is a moral crisis, I just kind of got to wonder, what do these words mean to you? As a doctor, as a member of Congress, as a presidential candidate, I just don't see a plan here for moving us forward in the 21st century. I just don't see it. All right. So, the other thing that's happening in the news that I think I'm actually really excited about, I want to share with you guys about, is the Fight for 15 campaign. They're having a major rally April 15th. It's going to be happening in cities nationwide. We're talking about 60,000 people from across the country. Oh, sorry. No, let me take that back. There are actually thousands and thousands of people who are going to be, telling the fast food industry that it's time for them to get a living wage, not just an increase in the minimum wage, but a living wage for the work that they do. And they're going to be striking on April 15th. They're going to be joined by more than 60,000 people across the country and in 35 countries around the world. So, this is happening in hundreds of cities. Go check out fightfor15.org. That's FIGHTFOR15, not the letters, the numbers. So that's fightfor15.org. And you guys got to check out their material. They've got a lot of great stuff. I'm motivated and pumped, and I'm ready to join them. This is going to be a major fight for health justice, and we're going to actually cover, our next episode is actually going to be covering these issues with minimum wage, because a lot of folks out there are, just not getting by. And I don't think that the minimum wage is living up to that minimum standard of living that was the original vision of when minimum wage was enacted into law in the last century. So, I'm really excited about the about fast food workers taking it to the streets, telling these big mega corporations that it's time to, do some, economic justice, and that they don't need to wait for any kind of, state house, courthouse, or, the federal government to, mandate it, that they should, that it is in their business interests. It's in the interests of a just and moral society to give them a living wage. Now, some of you might be wondering, over these last couple of episodes, why have I been making such a fuss over things like this, right? Why am I making a fuss over minimum wage, and why do I care so much about the budget? And, and even among some doctors, they might be kind of looking at me wearing this white coat talking about these issues, and they're kind of wondering whether I'm leaving my lane, am I going off the reservation? And my answer to that is actually no. I actually feel that, the budget is where things like, I mean, there are some obvious things that happen with the budget. I mean, when you are going to attack Medicaid, when you're going to attack food stamps, those are things that actually have an immediate impact on child health. So, yeah, it's absolutely appropriate to talk about those issues in the budget, and they are health issues. They are they do have medical consequences. If I'm just see where these problems are starting, then I'm just kind of hoping that you guys will join me on the swim, come up river and see what's happening here. And because I think that a lot of the problems that are, when you look at the root causes of some of the health inequities that we're dealing with as healthcare providers, as, doctors, nurses, dentists, whoever, when you actually look at like some of the root causes, there's only so much that we can really identify in the boundaries of clinic. And when you look at some of the consequences of why some of the work that we've been doing in clinic is not working out, you again have to kind of look at well, what was the world that you sent the patient back into? If you sent them back into a world where, I mean, fresh fruits and vegetables are tough to afford or they're just tough to find, if you send them back into a world where, affordable housing is an extreme challenge, if you send them back into a world where they work at a job that doesn't, where they can't even afford to feed themselves, then these are issues where it's sort of we're kind of identifying the issues that are making healthcare work that much tougher, because we're sending our patients and our families back into a world that is undermining our work as doctors and nurses and dentists. So, that's a big reason why I care about issues like the budget. And I really do want to join, the voices that are rising against some of these, big multi-billion-dollar corporations, because, when I look at, some of the hard work and some of the tough decisions that have to be made in a budget, I got to kind of ask the question, okay, if we're going to afford things making sure that every child has a source of healthcare, making sure that not a single child goes hungry, making sure that every family in America has a roof over their head, I have no delusion about that those things cost something. That I have no delusion that each of those things needs to have some kind of a finance pathway, that it needs to have some kind of policy behind it with, structures in place about funding. I have no delusions about that, and I have no naivety about it whatsoever. But the thing is that you can't ask those questions without also asking the question of okay, who is pitching in and who is not? And I have to say that, when I pay my taxes, I know that I am pitching in what I can. And I'm not saying that I enjoy, paying my taxes, but, what keeps me from whining about it is that I think about my patients, I don't have kids myself, and yet I want to make sure that every child has, an excellent school to go to. I want to make sure that every kid in this country has somebody that they can go to when they have a healthcare problem. I really, care about that not a single child go hungry. And I realize that, okay, my taxes are a part of helping answer that problem. And I'm not saying that's the only answer to the problem, but it plays a part. And then I have to kind of wonder, well, okay, what are the other parts in play here? Because when I look at the budget, I see that as much as I want my tax dollars to go towards things like solving education problems for kids, healthcare problems for kids, hunger problems for kids, I'm finding that a lot of my tax dollars seems to get sucked up by, the military. And I have to ask, okay, did we really need yet one more fighter jet when the old fighter jet was really whooping some ass out there and there was not a single other weapon that was a threat to it? Yet we're going to go ahead and get a new one. I have to ask questions like that because what I feel the budget ought to reflect. And also when I look at okay, we're going to pay for that new fighter jet by denying these kids, health and education and food, I have to kind of ask the question, is this are these really the goals and values and principles of the country that I live in? The other part I got to ask is okay, I've done my part with paying what I had to pay. But then I read and I, follow some of the news and I realize that, okay, some of these multi-billion-dollar, corporations have not paid very much in taxes at all. Or at least when I look at like the fraction that they have to pay, and if I had to look at the fraction that I have to pay, I'm kind of wondering, well, how did this happen? They've got billions to tap into. If they were to give just a tiny bit more, it's not like they're going to go home hungry. Meanwhile, I see actual real hungry kids in my clinic. And I have to wonder, okay, did everybody do their part? And it does kind of bring into, and all these issues do start to kind of like conflate together. They do kind of come together because, let's look at a company like Walmart, right? Huge recipient of, tax breaks, of, all kinds of like subsidies. And when you look at their workforce, Walmart has they have taken billions of dollars in food stamp money, because if you look at for all the states that keep track of the data of, which are the large employers that have employees on food stamps, state after state after state, there are 23 states that keep track of this kind of data. 19 of those 23 states, Walmart is the number one employer with employees on food stamps. Now, I think that regardless of whether you're a liberal or conservative or whatever, most of us would agree that if you have a job and you are working at it, there should really be that job should be enough to feed you, to keep you fed. It might not make you rich. It might not give you the lifestyles of the rich and famous, but it should at least keep you fed. And yet here it is. Walmart is, got the largest number of employees on food stamps. They've got a huge number of their employees on Medicaid, which I actually don't mind that part. I actually don't mind that they have employees on Medicaid. What I do mind is that when Walmart tries to duck out of paying taxes, which would actually go towards keeping Medicaid active for their employees, Walmart, you can't have it both ways. People do have a right to health care, and that health care does cost something. So to me, if you're Walmart, your options are be an employer who sponsors health insurance and join tons of other large employers that, sponsor health insurance for their employees, and you take care of paying for their health insurance plans. Now, I'm not crazy about that solution, and I could actually understand where some libertarians have the attitude of Walmart didn't go into business for, figuring out health benefits. Okay, I can kind of see the point in that. If you end up having to spend a lot of your time as a businessman trying to figure out how are you going to do health benefits, and if that's not really your core business model, fine. I can kind of understand that maybe you didn't go into business to provide health care to your employees. But at the very least, take some of the money that you have reaped in your profits and hand it over to, state and federal governments so that your employees do have somewhere to go when it comes time to needing some health care. That might mean that you have to provide for Medicaid. That might mean you put in the money for a Medicare for all type thing. It might mean that you put in money for, the public option. It could mean that you're pitching in to something like the federal exchange, so that if you really don't like the idea of, people going on a state-run or government-run healthcare insurance program, you could help your state's, health insurance exchange, or you can help the federal government's health insurance exchange run better. These are your options, Walmart. I don't think that the option of we're just not going to, contribute anything to anyone is really a moral, viable argument. I honestly am hoping that, and this is why I support things, like Fight for 15, because I kind of feel these workers, deserve better than what, a lot of these mega corporations are offering. And, you are not some mom and pop store, if you're Walmart, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, whoever, you're not this mom and pop store down the corner that is, struggling to keep the lights on and the roof up. You're a multi-billion-dollar company. It's high time that the people who are working for you see some kind of economic justice, and that they aren't, depending on food stamps to keep themselves fed, that their job actually takes care of at least the basic needs: food, rent, a couple of bills. I mean, and then I mean, it is like tough out there, and I have no doubt that my families that I take care of here in Southeast DC, and that lots of us see in poor, I mean, communities across the country, there's no shortage of grit. There's no shortage of, resolve and resourcefulness. They can stretch dollars pretty far. But at the end of the day, there are some needs that are going to require yet another dollar. And quite frankly, Walmart and all of you other mega corporations who should be paying attention on April 15th, it's time to give these folks a living wage. So anyway, this is why, as a doctor, I do care about things like the budget. This is why I care about things like, minimum wage. And this is why we're going to keep talking about them on shows like Dr. America, because, some of these issues, I'm going to help you guys connect the dots, and hopefully you can kind of see that we can get some positive health outcomes, we can get some positive justice outcomes, and that it really does kind of require all of us kind of stepping out of our comfort zone just a little bit so that we can build a more perfect union together. All right. When we come back, I'm going to have a couple of closing thoughts for you guys. You've been listening to the Dr. America Show here on the We Act Radio Network. I am your host, Dr. Sanjeev Sriram, and we'll be right back.
I'm a third grade teacher.
I'm a school bus driver.
I am a parent.
I am a teacher's aide, and I agree to be identified
as a caring adult who pledges to help bullied students.
I will listen carefully to all students who seek my help
and act on their behalf
to put an immediate stop to bullying.
I will work with other caring adults to create a safe
learning environment for all the students in my school.
In my school.
In my school.
In my school.
I'm Dennis Van Rokel, president of the National Education Association. Help us create safe, bully-free learning environments for all students. One caring adult can make all the difference. Be that adult and take the pledge at nea.org/bullyfree. Adults have the power to stop bullying in our schools.
It starts with me.
It starts with me.
It starts with me.
It starts with me.
Bully free. It starts with me.
Visit nea.org/bullyfree. A message from the National Education Association.
Local station WLS broadcasts a radio host who personally attacked a young woman just because he disagreed with her. She told elected officials about her classmates who rely on prescription birth control for their health. The host lobbed 46 personal attacks at her.
She's having so much sex, it's amazing she can still walk.
She's having so much sex, she's going broke buying contraceptives and wants us to buy them.
It makes her a slut, right? Makes her a prostitute. She wants to be paid to have sex.
Pick up the phone and tell WLS we don't talk about women like that in Chicago. They should be ashamed. You can reach WLS at 312-984-0890. That's 312-984-0890. Once again, call 312-984-0890 right now and tell WLS there's no place for this kind of indecency to women in Chicago. This community service announcement was paid for by Media Matters for America.
Local station WLS broadcasts a radio host who repeatedly attacked a female student for no other reason than her participation in a public debate about women's health. She told elected officials about various ways her classmates rely on prescription birth control, including a story about a friend who takes it to manage ovarian cysts. For this, the radio host called her a slut, in addition to 45 other personal attacks.
Ms. Fluke, have you ever heard of not having sex?
She's having so much sex, it's amazing she can still walk.
She's having so much sex, she's going broke buying contraceptives and wants us to buy them.
It makes her a slut, right? Makes her a prostitute. She wants to be paid to have sex.
If we are going to pay for your contraceptives and thus pay for you to have sex, we want you to post the videos online so we can all watch.
WLS shouldn't talk about women this way. Our community deserves better than this. This community service announcement was paid for by Media Matters for America.
Hello world, it's your boy Richard Fowler. Every Friday after I've wrapped up the Richard Fowler Show, I find myself quite thirsty. Thirsty for an adult beverage. Not just any old adult beverage. I prefer a tall glass of one of my favorite fine wines. But not just any old wine either. I obviously demand wine that is super tasty. But I also require the wine I drink be good for the earth and kind to my body. That is why I only buy my wine from the Organic Wine Company. Founded in 1980, the Organic Wine Company is the nation's oldest importer of organic wines. They have a tremendous selection: reds, whites, sparkling, dessert wines, and it's easy and inexpensive to ship them all directly to your front door. Join the movement of health-conscious, earth-friendly wine drinkers, led by the fine folks at the Organic Wine Company. You can find them online at ecowine.com or give them a call at 1-888-ECO-WINE and tell them your boy Richard Fowler sent you.
Take Action News is proud to be sponsored by Healthcare for America Now. HCAN is a national coalition of more than 1,000 groups in 50 states, representing 30 million people. HCAN works to promote, defend, implement, and improve the Affordable Care Act at both the state and federal levels. They also try to protect Medicare and Medicaid, increase corporate accountability, and confront forces that seek to take away critical services. HCAN believes in creating jobs, not cutting programs people depend on. HCAN runs comprehensive issue campaigns that mobilize people at the grassroots and define the public debate. HCAN is fighting to protect, implement, and improve the new health care law through national and state-based legislative and regulatory campaigns built on grassroots action, public education, communications, policy analysis, and groundbreaking research. HCAN has become a respected voice and national leader on healthcare while continuing to focus on aggressive field activity. Support HCAN, Healthcare for America Now.
The old system of transportation funding and construction has left America stuck with ailing roads, highways, and rail systems. If our leaders in Washington continue to ignore the problem, America will be stuck with the same old gridlock. If our leaders come together to reform transportation policy, America wins. Now is the time to come together for a better transportation system. Now is the time to break through the gridlock. Now is the time to demand action from our elected officials. The Phoenix Freedom Political Action Committee is committed to that goal. We will support candidates and work with elected officials that are willing to make real transportation reform. But it's on you. We need your help. Visit our website, www.pfpac.org. Tell them Richard Fowler sent you. This is paid for by the Phoenix Freedom Political Action Committee.
Let me tell you who to blame. Blame the boy lying at your feet, his body oozing life through the hole in his stomach where the bullet tore him apart. Blame him for challenging you, for not looking away and for not backing down when you pulled out the gun. Blame your mother for bringing you into this world when she was but a kid herself and for dragging you up, not bringing you up. Blame society for not giving you hope. Blame your father for not being there, the man who looked after himself instead of looking after you. Blame the gun in your hand for making you a target, for making you more likely to be picked on. Blame the dead boy, blame your mother, blame society, blame your father, blame the gun, blame anyone but yourself for not being strong enough to put down the gun, to break the cycle.
Hey, this is Leprechaun Tim Pohanka from Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai. It's hard to be down on your luck when you're Virginia's first choice for new Nissan and Hyundais, but I need to sell 60 cars this week. Right now, I'll pay you big bucks for your good luck. Bring down any good luck charm you've gotten based on the sale price of the car you choose. I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car this week. Today, your lucky penny is worth plenty, up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car you want. Stop moping and hoping you'll get approved. With my For the People credit approval process, the banks are looking to get lucky and lend to you, even if you've been turned down before. Bring me any good luck charm and I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car today. Hurry, once I get rid of 60 cars, the luck runs out. All offers require bank approval, so call us at 1-800-POHANKA, visit Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai on Route 1 in Fredericksburg, or better yet, log on to timpohankaforthepeople.com. And when we make a deal, I promise it'll be your lucky day. I'm Tim Pohanka, and I'm a leprechaun for the people. Hey, this is Leprechaun Tim Pohanka from Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai. It's hard to be down on your luck when you're Virginia's first choice for new Nissan and Hyundais, but I need to sell 60 cars this week. Right now, I'll pay you big bucks for your good luck. Bring down any good luck charm you've got, and based on the sale price of the car you choose, I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car this week. Today, your lucky penny is worth plenty, up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car you want. Stop moping and hoping you'll get approved. With my For the People credit approval process, the banks are looking to get lucky and lend to you, even if you've been turned down before. Bring me any good luck charm and I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car today. Hurry, once I get rid of 60 cars, the luck runs out. All offers require bank approval, so call us at 1-800-POHANKA, visit Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai on Route 1 in Fredericksburg, or better yet, log on to timpohankaforthepeople.com. And when we make a deal, I promise it'll be your lucky day. I'm Tim Pohanka, and I'm a leprechaun for the people. Hey, this is Leprechaun Tim Pohanka from Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai. It's hard to be down on your luck when you're Virginia's first choice for new Nissan and Hyundais, but I need to sell 60 cars this week. Right now, I'll pay you big bucks for your good luck. Bring down any good luck charm you've got, and based on the sale price of the car you choose, I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car this week. Today, your lucky penny is worth plenty, up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car you want. Stop moping and hoping you'll get approved. With my For the People credit approval process, the banks are looking to get lucky and lend to you, even if you've been turned down before. Bring me any good luck charm and I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car today. Hurry, once I get rid of 60 cars, the luck runs out. All offers require bank approval, so call us at 1-800-POHANKA, visit Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai on Route 1 in Fredericksburg, or better yet, log on to timpohankaforthepeople.com. And when we make a deal, I promise it'll be your lucky day. I'm Tim Pohanka, and I'm a leprechaun for the people. Hey, this is Leprechaun Tim Pohanka from Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai. It's hard to be down on your luck when you're Virginia's first choice for new Nissan and Hyundais, but I need to sell 60 cars this week. Right now, I'll pay you big bucks for your good luck. Bring down any good luck charm you've got, and based on the sale price of the car you choose, I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car this week. Today, your lucky penny is worth plenty, up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car you want. Stop moping and hoping you'll get approved. With my For the People credit approval process, the banks are looking to get lucky and lend to you, even if you've been turned down before. Bring me any good luck charm and I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car today. Hurry, once I get rid of 60 cars, the luck runs out. All offers require bank approval, so call us at 1-800-POHANKA, visit Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai on Route 1 in Fredericksburg, or better yet, log on to timpohankaforthepeople.com. And when we make a deal, I promise it'll be your lucky day. I'm Tim Pohanka, and I'm a leprechaun for the people. Hey, this is Leprechaun Tim Pohanka from Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai. It's hard to be down on your luck when you're Virginia's first choice for new Nissan and Hyundais, but I need to sell 60 cars this week. Right now, I'll pay you big bucks for your good luck. Bring down any good luck charm you've got, and based on the sale price of the car you choose, I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car this week. Today, your lucky penny is worth plenty, up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car you want. Stop moping and hoping you'll get approved. With my For the People credit approval process, the banks are looking to get lucky and lend to you, even if you've been turned down before. Bring me any good luck charm and I'll give you up to $4,777 off any nicer, newer car today. Hurry, once I get rid of 60 cars, the luck runs out. All offers require bank approval, so call us at 1-800-POHANKA, visit Pohanka Nissan and Pohanka Hyundai on Route 1 in Fredericksburg, or better yet, log on to timpohankaforthepeople.com. And when we make a deal, I promise it'll be your lucky day. I'm Tim Pohanka, and I'm a leprechaun for the people.
Let me tell you who to blame. Blame the boy lying at your feet, his body oozing life through the hole in his stomach where the bullet tore him apart. Blame him for challenging you, for not looking away and for not backing down when you pulled out the gun. Blame your mother for bringing you into this world when she was but a kid herself and for dragging you up, not bringing you up. Blame society for not giving you hope. Blame your father for not being there, the man who looked after himself instead of looking after you. Blame the gun in your hand for making you a target, for making you more likely to be picked on. Blame the dead boy, blame your mother, blame society, blame your father, blame the gun, blame anyone but yourself for not being strong enough to put down the gun, to break the cycle.
You're listening to We Act Radio, WPWC 1480 AM. Visit us online at weactradio.com.
Welcome to the Dr. America Show here on the We Act Radio Network. I am your host, Dr. Sanjeev Sriram. Thanks for coming back. So we've covered a lot today in the program, and I wanted to give you guys some information about one more opportunity for some activism and for justice, and that is called marchtojustice.com. It's March 2, the number 2, justice.com. They are going to be having a march, and this is going to be starting on April 13th, 2015. So, and I'm going to read from their website because I think it's just so inspiring what they've got planned. Okay, so on Monday, April 13th, 2015, Justice League NYC and friends from across the country will gather in New York City to march to the nation's capital. They're going to be stopping in key cities and towns along the route for local rallies and mobilization. The March to Justice will culminate in a large rally and concert here in D.C. on the National Mall on Tuesday, April 21st. So Justice League NYC will march to justice with coalition partners to deliver a quote-unquote justice package of criminal justice reform legislation that will end racial profiling, demilitarize our police forces, and invest in our communities. We march in solidarity with our elders, our youth, our incarcerated brothers and sisters, and the families and communities of those impacted by police brutalities. We march on behalf of Eric Garner and Akai Gurley and Jesse Hernandez and Rakaya Boyd and Tamir Rice and Michael Brown and Renisha McBride and London Colvin and John Crawford III and Miriam Carey and Anthony Baez and Ramarley Graham. We march to justice because we believe that together we can change the landscape of this nation and prove once and for all that all men and women are created equal and we all have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they invite all of us to join them on this historic trip. So I'm really excited for this event. It's March to Justice starting in New York on April 13th, and it'll be finishing up here Tuesday, April 21st. We'll do our best to invite some of these marchers to be on the program. But, you know, this might raise up the question again, okay, why does Dr. America care about a criminal justice reform march? And you guys know that we've been covering police brutality on the Dr. America show here on We Act. And, you know, the reason why this is a medical issue and a health issue is that, you know, when these kinds of inequities exist in our society, it is so demoralizing and it brings down, like, you know, the social capital of communities that need that social capital the most so that they can improve upon their health outcomes, their education outcomes, their job outcomes, and really, you know, lift themselves up. And so when institutions as important as the police are facing distrust because of poor behavior of even a few officers, it's a really serious problem. And I think the more that we've learned out of, you know, places like Ferguson, Missouri, and you know, and each of the names that I've read off is an example that this goes well beyond Ferguson, that this is a nationwide problem, and that through criminal justice reform, if we can actually, you know, give these families a chance to, you know, reconcile. If they did break the law, it gives them a chance to reconcile, you know, with the law in peaceful terms that, you know, doesn't become a burden that they carry for the rest of their life so that they can't get an education, can't get a job, and, you know, can't move on to, you know, to better health and well-being. You criminal justice reform plays a huge part in that. And each of these names, if you don't recognize some of these names, a Google search will educate you about some of these tragedies. These are men and women, a lot of different age groups, and it's happening all across the country. That we're just seeing that some officers are, going way out of bounds, and the indignity that these communities have faced and these families have been devastated by. It really just needs to stop. I think that, we are a better nation than this, and we can do better. We must do better. And this is an opportunity. So if you guys are in New York on April 13th and are ready to make the walk, at least join them for a little part of it. I mean, it's a long, long march from, New York to D.C. And even if you can't do the whole thing, if you can do part of it and meet up with them along the way, be part of these rallies and make your voice heard, make your presence felt, I think it's a valuable opportunity for activism, for social justice, and I am really excited to see these guys when they get here to D.C. So I know this episode we've been covering a lot of different news stories, and we've kind of gone a little bit all over the place. But to sort of like recap and maybe put these things on a calendar of sorts. The first thing that we talked about was the NRA convention meeting this weekend from April 10th to April 12th. And, hopefully you guys can join the activists over at Everytown USA. And, fingers crossed, maybe this will be the year that guys like Wayne LaPierre will show the survivors of gun violence some decency and engage them in civil dialogue that might be productive for preventing more death and injury from gun violence. So that's April 10th through 12th. We've got the March to Justice starting on April 13th in New York, and that's for criminal justice reform. We've got the Fight for 15, that is fast food workers are being joined by thousands of activists and thousands of workers across the country and around the world to rally for a living wage. And so that'll be happening on April 15th. And the ongoing struggles for a fair and legitimate budget are going to be fought once Congress comes back, from their spring recess. I don't think President Obama is going to be signing any of their budget bills into law. But, I'm worried about some of the compromises that are going to get started because, poor kids and poor families are usually, the first ones on the cutting block. And, some of our military spending is never really seen on that block. And I think that it's important for your members of Congress to hear from you. I know that Children's Defense Fund is hosting the hashtag Stop the Cuts. So join that discussion on Twitter. And don't lose hope, guys, because like we had covered it before earlier in this episode, your voices are being heard. The pressure is being felt. Paid sick days, just got 61 votes for the support as an idea. And, that's big news for it becoming hopeful policy. So, keep up the spirit, keep up the fight, keep up your voices. And, if it's, and if it's time for health justice, it's time for Dr. America here on the We Act Radio Network. I have been your host, Dr. Sanjeev Sriram. And until next week, salud to your health. Was that long enough, Pete?
You're listening to We Act Radio, WPWC 1480 AM. Visit us online at weactradio.com.
I'm a third grade teacher.
I'm a school bus driver.
I am a parent.
I am a teacher's aide, and I agree to be identified
as a caring adult who pledges to help bullied students.
I will listen carefully to all students who seek my help
and act on their behalf
to put an immediate stop to bullying.
I will work with other caring adults to create a safe
learning environment for all the students in my school.
In my school.
In my school.
In my school.
I'm Dennis Van Rokel, president of the National Education Association. Help us create safe, bully-free learning environments for all students. One caring adult can make all the difference. Be that adult and take the pledge at nea.org/bullyfree. Adults have the power to stop bullying in our schools.
It starts with me.
It starts with me.
It starts with me.
It starts with me.
Bully free. It starts with me.
Visit nea.org/bullyfree. A message from the National Education Association.
Let me tell you who to blame. Blame the boy lying at your feet, his body oozing life through the hole in his stomach where the bullet tore him apart. Blame him for challenging you, for not looking away and for not backing down when you pulled out the gun. Blame your mother for bringing you into this world when she was but a kid herself and for dragging you up, not bringing you up. Blame society for not giving you hope. Blame your father for not being there, the man who looked after himself instead of looking after you. Blame the gun in your hand for making you a target, for making you more likely to be picked on. Blame the dead boy, blame your mother, blame society, blame your father, blame the gun, blame anyone but yourself for not being strong enough to put down the gun, to break the cycle.
My name is Joe Thompson. I'm 29 years old and I have a career that I love as a systems analyst. Career. It still sounds cool to say that word. I never could have gotten on this path without a college degree. And if the college me were here, he'd tell you.
I never would have gotten to college without big brothers, big sisters. I could have ended up anywhere, on the streets even. But college? Joe Thompson? Not likely. My big brother helped me out. He taught me I could do anything, at a time when a lot of people were saying just the opposite.
And to a 7-year-old, that means a lot. My big brother's name is Phil. And Phil is the reason that this 7-year-old grows up to be a systems analyst.
Whether you donate money or time, sisters help a child, and that can last a lifetime. Start something today at bigbrothersbigsisters.org. Brought to you by Big Brothers Big Sisters and the Ad Council.
This entire piece of music was played with only 2 instruments, a right hand and a left hand. Hands can do incredible things, but nothing compares to using them to help save a life with hands-only CPR. If an adult suddenly collapses, call 911, then push hard and fast in the center of their chest until help arrives. Hands-only CPR is recommended by the American Heart Association, and it's incredibly easy and effective. For more information on hands-only CPR and to make your own hand symphony track, visit handsonlycpr.org today. The power to help save a life is in your hands. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
You're listening to We Act Radio, WPWC 1480 AM, broadcasting live from Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue in D.C.
That this is a non-issue, but Greece is basically saying to Germany,
not going to get anything, honestly.
You don't think they're going to get anything?
I think they're, particularly because they've gotten so much help from Europe in terms of their financial situation anyway.
The flip side of that, though, is that Europe put them in that situation.
Well, they did put them in that situation. I mean, it's a mess over there. And but I don't see Greece getting any reparations money.
Yeah.
Now, maybe they're going to get some help from some of the other countries. That might be a possibility.
I would be
reparations
astonished.
Money from Germany?
I would be astonished if they got reparations money from Germany, and Germany's going to resist this, not just because it's Greece, but because it could open a whole spigot of other claims. On the other hand, if Greece makes this argument and says, we really believe this is a strong argument, this is a legal argument, therefore we're not going to repay you this money, we're going to withhold that money, that might provide a rationale for defaulting that's not called a default.
That's very interesting, and that would be, and you see, I think that's why they're doing this at this point, so they don't go into default.
Yeah, it's like this is the third or fourth move forward in the chess game.
Oh, yes. Senator Ron Paul formalized his bid for president today. I'm sure you've been talking about it.
Rand Paul.
His folks are making a very big pitch that he's a doctor. His website is Dr. Paul, not Senator Paul. He is talking about helping with 100 eye surgeries in Guatemala last year. His pitch is defeat the Washington machine, unleash the American dream. He says he's going after term limits, national debt, NSA surveillance, and special interest in the Washington machine.
Is he using a bong as his logo for his bumper stickers with Aqua Buddha?
I have no idea, but that would be great, huh? But, he's moving, his issues on gay marriage are not good anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really moved from libertarian to try and get...
He's just a hustler. He's just another hustler.
Right. See, I always say a senator